I'm well.
Okay, great. So the topic of the day is how do I get out of a Colorado DUI? If anybody should be so unfortunate as to find themselves in that position,
Right.
uh, I'm sure you have some questions that we can get answered here.
Okay.
So the first one that our viewers are asking is, what should I look for when I'm trying to find a DUI attorney?
Okay. First thing I would look for is obviously experience. A lot of people who are criminal defense lawyers now started out as probably prosecutors or maybe as public defenders. So I would look for somebody who's got a long track record. Sometimes and done this before. It's kind of a specialty, and you'll see a lot of lawyers. They do divorces, they do, wills and trusts, and they do DUIs as well. And some of those guys are probably fine, but if it were me, I'd want someone who specialized in that particular part of the law because it's a changing dynamic. And lawyers, some lawyers believe that specializing is better. And if I were going to hire somebody for that specific thing, then I would want somebody who just did that thing. So I would look for someone who specializes with a great deal of experience in that particular area.
Anything else you could think of?
I think also how accessible that person is to you. I'd be trying to see if that lawyer that I'm talking to or the lawyer who I went to the firm to hire, is that the person who's going to handle my case, or is it going to be someone else? If that is the trace, then let me meet that other person. I'd want to know how I can reach and get through to them when I needed to talk to them. I'd want to get a feel for just how they treated me. I mean, sometimes, people don't like their lawyers. I've heard sometimes they find them to be distant or not responsive. They're probably busy, but this is a confusing and scary situation. So I guess I think it's part of the job to try and make people feel better. And right. I think it's like I say, you're not just a tax guy. You're a counselor, and there's a broad variety of things you're going to counsel as far as life, as far as planning, as far as dealing with judges and what to say, as far as how to prepare for this, how to put yourself in the best position, whether you should go to trial or whether you should take a deal. There's a lot of variance, so I would want to make sure I had a great communication and rapport with my lawyer before I engage someone like that.
Okay, that's all great information. Now, what about any pitfalls that you see people that have selected the wrong DUI attorney might fall into?
Well,
what should you be aware? What are some red flags
okay.
that would tell you, oh, this is not the DUI lawyer that I should choose?
Okay, well, I would make sure there's communication. I think that's really important. People just want to know that someone's listening to them and available to them, because there's a lot of things that come up and they're kind of tight deadlines in these kind of cases. So I want to make sure that that my lawyer was able to reach me and call me back just in a reasonable, and a lot of times, I'm in court, for example, a lot of times, but people send me texts or they send me emails and I'll respond right away. And if I can, then I'll call them back. And at the end of every day, I've got a bunch of phone calls to make and I try to get it all done. I think that's accessibility would be, if I'm not getting that would be a concern of mine. I guess I'd say I'd want to see how familiar they were or seemed to be with the system and the law and the people involved, because that you do this all the time. You see the same people all the time. So I wonder, how well do they know everybody and they get along with everybody? Now, some lawyers maybe are not as talkative with their clients, and maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe they're okay. Maybe they're doing a great job. They're just busy, or they're just not good at that particular part of their practice. But for me, that's what I look for anyway.
Got it.
Hiring somebody.
And so, what makes some DUI attorneys better than others?
Well, I think number one is experience. I think you just have to go through this for a number of years. I did it on both sides, as a prosecutor and as a defense lawyer. So, just being able to see and understand, well, this is what's pushing the prosecution. Now, here's what the client wants, and understand here, and then what is the judge going to want? And then I think also what makes you effective also would be the kind of person you are. I mean, this is trial work. So you have to be able to appeal to strangers, to juries, or to judges, or to police officers. And so you have to wear a lot of different hats. So I find that that people who have who are I guess you have to have a pretty good social IQ to be aware of certain situations, be able to handle them, and then you really got to do you have to do a lot of court work and trial work. You have to do a lot of talking to judges and talking to prosecutors, and you have to do negotiating as well. So there's a lot of hats you got to wear. Some people are better at some than others. Ultimately, to get a lawyer who can do all of it, that's a good lawyer.
Great, good information. So the next question is, how much? I mean, I'm sure there's this is a variable thing, but how much should people be thinking about? How much does a DUI lawyer cost?
Okay, there are going to be a number of factors that relate to how much a lawyer is going to charge you for this. Some lawyers charge a straight up hourly, and you put a retainer on the bill against it hourly. Most lawyers in DUIs, I find, will offer a flat rate. That's usually good for a client because you get to know exactly how much it's going to be based on how far you go into this case, into the litigation.
Right.
The factors that a lawyer is going to look at when he's deciding what to bill on something, if it is a flat rate, is going to be, first of all, were there any accidents? Was anyone hurt in those accidents? How high was the blood alcohol concentration, if there was one? If not, how was the person's contact with the police officer? How did they act? I think a number of very big ones going to be priors, and how many, if there's one or more priors, that's a very big factor. Also, I'd want to know personally, what judge am I going to have? What police agency I'm working with here? That would really help me know what I can get done and what I want to do. A high blood alcohol, that's something else you consider too. Right.
So it really depends on how winnable the case is, given all those factors, or is that incorrect to say?
Well, it's not just winnable, because it's easier to take a plea than to win a case at trial. That's the hardest thing of all, to tell a judge, to tell a prosecutor and the officer who started this all that you're just wrong. You have to do it. So that's you can do it, but that's long and that's probably more costly than taking a plea bargain, which some people do. And so that's not necessarily gonna make it a lot. Maybe it makes it the right, the case may there be good defense, and maybe that makes it easier for me, because hey, we all know that my deal is to use my whatever I can with this prosecutor to get my client something that's acceptable to them.
Got it.
That can be easier. But the factors that you look at are those other things, because those are all going to make it more complex, more difficult for everybody. So those are the things that I look at when I'm deciding what I'm going to bill at.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, the next question is, can I represent myself?
Everyone can represent themselves if they choose to. I think it would be a bad idea, just because you're dealing with a prosecutor who knows that you can't go to jury trial. I mean, I've seen people try it, and I've seen it regularly. I've never seen anyone do a good job defending themselves. I've never seen it. It's just like, you see them in court, and it's like, wow, this is going badly. And there's just a bunch of rules. It's not fair. There's a bunch of rules you don't know, and you're playing a game. You don't even know the rules. How are you going to win a game like that? And the prosecutor knows that too. So when they're talking to you and they're making you an offer, they are very much aware that you can't go to trial either. So your offer is not going to be as good. A lot of times you use the ability to go to trial, the ability to make this hard on the other side, to leverage a better deal. And you just can't do that if you represent yourself. So some people, it's like, they can do it. I think that it's a rare circumstance where that's going to be better for you, but you can if you want to.
I've heard of that happening mostly in movies, and I think most of those fail as well. So
yeah, it's true.
So yeah, probably a bad idea, considering how much negative impact it could have on your life.
Well,
if you do,
you are going to live with it for a long time.
Exactly.
Conviction for this, people always want to say, doesn't it drop off after 3 years or 5 years? That's like an urban myth. These would not be records if they didn't go back until the beginning of record keeping. And so the answer is that conviction is going to remain for the rest of your life.
Right. And the next question is, how much money can getting a really good DUI attorney save someone who's in this situation?
Can you say that again? The question you're asking?
Yeah, how much money can a good DUI attorney save someone who's in this situation?
Well, those are hard to weigh because my number one concern is that my clients don't go to jail.
Right.
Think of what that costs. I mean, not just financially, but to your family and everything. So that cost to me is immeasurable. I mean, I think it literally is priceless. Someone's freedom.
Your freedom is priceless.
Yeah. So I don't think I can put that a dollar figure on that, but it'd be very high.
Right. That's probably a great answer. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you very much, Dave. And we'll be talking to you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.